into the mood, as they say. Okay, welcome to the Streaming Screams podcast. I am Glenn. This is Jessica.
Hello.
We're going to talk about horror movies and stuff. Today, we've got a particularly fun treat for everybody. We are talking about two new Halloween classics, two movies that are as controversial as they are successful, Terrifier and Terrifier 2.
Woohoo.
Okay, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to start with Terrifier 1 from 2016. It was written and directed by Damien Leone, or Leone? Is it Leone or Leone?
I think it's Leone.
I swear to God, we're going to start like 2/3 of our episodes with me trying to figure out if I'm pronouncing these names right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was written and directed by Damien Leone. It stars Jenna Cannell as Tara, Samantha... I really need to get glasses. I've been saying this for years. I keep not doing it. Why? I don't know.
You just get some reading glasses.
Yeah, I just... I literally never think about it except when I'm having trouble reading something, and then I'm like, oh man, I should go...
Seems like that might be a daily occurrence.
I know. It's just like routine now. Read some stuff, complain about it in my head, pull out my phone and use it as a magnifying glass for a second, put it away, and immediately forget that I'm having trouble reading things.
Yeah.
Now the text on my screen is huge. So Terrifier, released in 2016, written and directed by Damien Leone, starring Jenna Cannell as Tara, Samantha Scafidi as Vicky, Tara's sister, David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown, and Catherine Cochran as Dawn, Tara's best friend. Emily,
the doll,
played by the doll. I'm gonna say right now, there's not a lot of depth to the story here, which is why it's really shocking how much stuff actually happened in this movie. Because it's one of those movies that you kind of say nothing actually happened in it. And then you write down stuff as it's happening, and you're like, oh my God, there's just so much.
No, but there's still no plot.
There's
no plot. These are all just things leading to somebody else so that they can have some kill scene.
Yeah.
There's nothing's really going on.
There's no plot, but it's such a faster paced movie than you think it is, because there's so much stuff that happens. There's just no depth to it. No characters, no real arc. It's just Art, who is very funny, and his killing meats. And that's what you got. We see an old TV set showing talk show host Monica Brown as she interviews a severely disfigured woman. This woman is the only survivor of a massacre that took place last Halloween. They discuss the woman's appearance and how it's affected her life, because the woman is horribly, horribly, horribly disfigured. Monica Brown mentions that the body of her assailant and the serial killer, Art the Clown, was never recovered, and the woman insists that she saw him die. At which point, a foot with a big old clown shoe kicks in the television screen. So we get a montage of Art donning his clown costume and loading up a garbage bag full of assorted weapons. Some of them are really fun, like what I'm pretty sure is a table leg with forks and knives sticking out of it. And, others is just hacksaws and stuff, which we will come to.
The huge.
Yeah. I personally never leave the house without a table leg full of cutlery.
Sure.
Yeah. It's
important.
It's an essential. It's an essential. Back in the TV studio, Monica Brown is on the phone with her partner, talking some shit about the disfigured woman. The disfigured woman, who was eavesdropping, attacks Monica Brown, gouges out her eyes, and presumably kills her while laughing maniacally. We then go to Halloween, where Tara and Dawn are walking to their car from a party. They are both drunk as hell. They see Art the Clown walking down the street with his garbage bag. Dawn mockingly flirts with the clown a little bit, mostly to annoy Tara. They figure that driving drunk is a bad idea, so they go to a local pizza joint to get some food and sober up a bit. Art, of course, follows them. At the pizza joint, Art alternates between staring at them threateningly and hitting on Tara. Dawn continues flirting with him while also giving Tara the hey, look, it's your boyfriend treatment. After a little bit of fucking about, Art defiles the pizza joint bathroom by smearing his shit all over the bathroom walls and gets himself kicked out. And this is the first time I saw this. I was like, are they seriously just going to have a killer who smears his shit all over the walls? It's somehow so much more gross and horrifying than anything that happens to anybody in any slasher. I don't know why that is. It shouldn't be. I kind of feel like watching somebody take a chainsaw to the junk should be more disturbing than finding out that this clown was writing his name on a bathroom wall using poop. But it isn't. What's your thoughts on this, Jessica?
I don't know. I guess it's not that shocking to me because, like, I've worked places where this has actually happened.
I mean, I have too.
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. A killer doing that. I mean, maybe
it just brings back memories to like poop smeared walls and needles on bathroom floors.
I never had to deal with needles anywhere, but
I won't say
was the thing.
I won't say where I was working, but there was a couple of girls that we did ban from there because they were clearly shooting up in the bathroom. Which wasn't great. Also, it took them forever, and like half of the staff had to pee by the time we got them out of there.
Yeah. When I worked at Barnes & Noble, a teenager wrote with their feces on the bathroom wall. Also, somebody folded up a dirty diaper and slid it in between the books on the shelf. Like it was just a book supposed to be there. People are gross, man. So I guess, in the grand scheme of things,
the amount of rage and disgust coursing through my brain right now, just thinking about this, is palpable.
Yeah.
What is wrong with people?
I don't know. But so I guess that's why this didn't really faze me.
Yeah, that's horrible. Horrible. I don't ever want to think about that ever again. Oh, God. I will name this. I worked at a Carl's Jr., that was basically in a gas station gas station rest stop. You know the one.
Benicia?
Yeah. The shit that people would do in the bathroom, because I wasn't even thinking about that place just now. Mm-hmm. But the filth that we had to clean up from the bathroom in there was astounding. And what was worse was having to use that same bathroom.
Yeah. No, what I do like about this scene, which I noticed this time, is the guy just has to clean it up complaining. He's like, you really want the guy who, like, makes the food to be the one that's cleaning the bathroom? And I'm like, dude, I've never had to clean up those poopy messes, but I know that I've definitely been like, I do not get paid enough for this. I refuse.
Yeah. It's so gross. Honestly, that guy was like one of my favorite characters in the movie, just because I could feel that the actor had really worked retail and food service before, because you could just feel that legitimate, knowledgeable rage of...
And you're not being paid enough to deal with it.
Absolutely not. I swear to God, stuff like that pays nothing, and it's just the worst fucking jobs. I swear to God.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Be nice to your retail workers and your food service people, guys.
Yeah.
It's really a garbage life, which most of you have participated in, so I don't know why anybody is ever an asshole to, like, food service or retail workers. Like, we all know what it's like.
Yeah.
What is it, just your fucking turn now? Where was I?
The bathroom.
Okay. Art gets booted out of the pizza joint for defiling it. The girls then return to their car, but find that the tires have been slashed. And I don't remember if it's obvious that they're slashed at the time or if it's just a flat tire. But, the tires have been slashed. Art then goes back to the pizza joint where he kills and mutilates the two workers. And he makes a pretty decent jack-o'-lantern out of the owner's head.
So funny about that.
Uh-huh.
Apparently that's all CGI, and it was added,
really?
Yeah, and it was added at the very end because what's the director's name again?
Damien Leone.
But anyways, so the director was like, "Oh, we got to add something to make it more Halloweeny."
Okay, I mean it worked.
Yeah, because other than in the beginning them wearing costumes, it's not very Halloweeny.
Right.
You could forget that it takes place on Halloween.
Yeah.
So they added that in at the very last minute and CGI'd it in.
Yeah, no, you know what? I think it's a great addition. I did not know that it was CGI. Whoever did that did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
Tara calls her sister Vicky to come pick them up. While they are waiting, Tara really needs to pee, so she exits the car and goes to a nearby building to ask Mike, the pest control worker who's doing a job there, if she can go inside and use the bathroom. Mike escorts her inside, and there she meets the cat lady, a crazy squatter who carries around a baby doll that she treats like an actual baby. She's an interesting character and really creepy in her own right.
The baby's name is Emily.
Oh man, I should have put that in the in the cast notes at the beginning. Yeah. Emily, the doll, played by the doll. I'll go back and just like cut that in there. It'll be really awkward, and people will be like, "What happened there?" And then we'll get to this part, and it'll make sense. So Dawn is in the car listening to a radio news report when she hears that the employees of the pizza joint where they were just at earlier that night have been killed by a black and white clown. And I think this is probably a good time to just mention something about Art the Clown that's kind of interesting. Damien Leone really wanted him to be kind of the opposite of Pennywise.
Oh, yeah.
His logic being that nobody is ever going to be able to top that kind of clown. So he decided that Art should be completely silent no matter what's happening and shouldn't have any color to his outfit. So his makeup and his costume and all of that is stark black and white. And yeah, as mentioned earlier, he never makes a sound. Doesn't matter if he's just messing with people or if he's laughing or if he is supposedly screaming. All of this is done in pantomime on his part. Pantomime. Yes. Pantomime. Been listening to too much Ghosts lately.
Yeah.
It's kind of a neat thing, and David Howard Thornton does this really amazing job of making Art very expressive.
He said he took inspiration from Mr. Bean.
I could totally see it, man. I could totally see that. But yeah, I mean, he nails it. Art is somehow, despite never talking, one of the most expressive slashers I think I've ever seen. And he is so funny. We'll get to this more in Terrifier 2, but I legitimately felt bad at points watching these because there would be some truly gruesome stuff happening, but then Art would be so funny about it that I would just be sitting there laughing and, you know, actually grossed out by what's going on or just being like, this would be awful. But I'm still laughing because Art is very funny.
Yeah, apparently Thornton already had experience as a mime before this, and that's one of the reasons he got hired.
Oh, interesting. Just as an aside, did you look up the whole mime clown thing?
Yeah, but there's really nothing to say, like...
Oh, really?
I mean, mimes are clowns, but not all clowns are mimes, type of thing.
I was just hoping maybe you could enlighten us on some of the history of the two, and...
It's not interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. I figured it would actually...
All it is like clowns are... They're professionals in, like, physical comedy, and miming is just doing it without, like, telling a story without any words. But they're still considered... Clowns are considered mimes.
Wait, are clowns mimes or are mimes clowns?
Mimes are clowns.
Okay.
And then there's like a list of a bunch of different clowns. Like a jester would be considered a clown.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We will get to why I asked you to look that up in Terrifier 2. So Art attacks Dawn in the car. Afterwards, he goes back into the building, chases down Tara, and drugs her. And now we get to the infamous hacksaw scene. Tara wakes up tied to a chair and sees Dawn suspended upside down with her legs spread in just her panties, otherwise completely naked. Art comes into frame and sort of messes with Tara for a second, but he then goes and rips Dawn's underwear off and forces Tara to watch as he saws Dawn in half using a hacksaw from her groin up to her head. It is a very long, very gruesome scene. It became really infamous.
It's infamous for it. Leone says he kind of regrets not doing that scene, but how that character's treated, because like she has no depth. She's just the bimbo in it.
Oh God, did he say that she's the bimbo?
No, but that's what he implied.
Okay.
But yeah, she's just some bimbo, doesn't really have any depth, and then it's just like, oh, and then we just show her tits and cut her in half. So he says he kind of feels bad of how the character's treated, and in turn the actress he feels bad for.
You know, I'm really interested to see what happens in the third movie, because I do feel like from All Hallows Eve to Terrifier 2, he's been pretty good about taking people's criticisms and acting on them in the next movie. But I think particularly after Terrifier 2, there seems to be a there's a pretty heavy consensus that, like, man, Art really hates women.
Oh, sure.
And
I don't know. He did say, too, in an interview recently that the second movie wasn't actually affected much by people's criticism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I had seen and read interviews with him where he talked about how a lot of people had complained about the lack of characterization, and he felt that he almost overcompensated by trying to create this big arc.
At least in a newer one, he said, no, it didn't.
Interesting.
He said the second movie's supposed to be his dream warriors.
I mean, that makes sense. But, Damien Leone, if you ever hear this, we want you to come on the pod and straighten this out for us. Let's get the straight story. Yeah. One of these days, somebody will hear me say this. Somebody will come on the show. We'll have a guest. It'll happen. I mean, I do hope that he really fucks up some dudes in the third one. And, like,
it's supposed to be more like the first one.
Yeah, that's good. I know that it's supposed to be a little more grounded and slashery, a little less. I mean, I wouldn't say that the second one was really fantasy oriented, but there was all that weird dream stuff and all that. But I just mean, like, we get the hacksaw scene in the first one. The second one, we get the bedroom scene, which we'll come to. Mm-hmm. And, if you watch All Hallows Eve, which we aren't really discussing, have you seen that one?
Not in a long time.
Okay. So at the end, he captures the babysitter, who has been the main character of the movie, or who has been, like, sort of the main framing device. He captures the babysitter, cuts all of her limbs off, cuts her boobs off, and carves a bunch of misogynist slurs into her body. When you take these three things, and then you stack them up with, like, the kills that he has when he kills dudes, it's like meticulously pulling apart a body or squishing a head, doing some crazy art piece involving a bunch of misogynist slurs, and then just stabbing the shit out of something.
Well, I mean, he made a jack-o'-lanterns out of those other guys' heads.
He did make a jack-o'-lantern out of one of their heads, and
wasn't it two?
Just one.
No, I thought it was that the guy finds his coworkers and then he makes another jack-o'-lantern.
The guy finds his boss's head made into a jack-o'-lantern.
And then his gets turned into one.
Does it? I don't remember seeing a second jack-o'-lantern. I just remember the kill happening after that. And
I'm pretty sure, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Either way.
But yeah, it seems like the dudes always get off easy. Like even the most brutal one, which happens in Terrifier 2, which is very funny and we'll get to, even that is like nothing compared to the bedroom scene or the hacksaw scene for that matter.
Yeah. Or the mashed potatoes.
Oh, we will get to that. Talk about things that made me feel bad about myself. I laughed so fucking hard when we saw that in theaters. I was dying. But we'll come to that.
Yeah, gotta get through this one first.
Yeah. Clearly, we're itching to talk about the second one.
Well, there's not much.
Yeah, I know. Not a lot of depth in the first one.
You're making it seem like there is, but there's really not.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of things that happen, but there's not a lot of arc to it. After the hacksawing, Tara is able to escape and hits Art with a 2x4. As we are apparently getting ready for a typical slasher showdown, where Tara is standing there with her 2x4 and being like, "Come on, motherfucker," and you think there's going to be a big thing, Art pulls an Indiana Jones and just whips out a gun and shoots her. He then goes on to attack Mike, knocking him out with a hammer. We cut to the cat lady wandering around and finding Art cradling her doll. She tries to appeal to Art's humanity using motherly love, but this doesn't go well for her.
It's just a weird scene.
It is a weird scene.
It's like, what is happening right now and why?
So that's one of the things that I do actually really like about the first movie is there's so much in it that is just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Did this movie need a lady who in the credits is named Cat Lady, but we never see her with cats?
In the first scene with her, you hear cats.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that
makes sense. I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah, you do.
But I do remember just being
and I think it's commented on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Vicky then arrives to pick up Tara and Dawn. So Art, wearing the cat lady scalp and breasts, lures her to a basement and then corners her in a locker.
Well, I was going to say here, I want to know who's actually playing this scene of Art wearing the boobs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Because the stomach on the person and the butt does not look like a man. I'm pretty sure it's one of the girls.
Maybe. I mean, it probably was easier to just put a girl in clown makeup than
sure.
to...
but it was very distracting to me because I'm just like... That That looks like a woman's body.
Starting
not
to have
just the fake tits.
a funny feeling in your nether region for Art the Clown suddenly.
Just,
I mean,
like if his stomach looks like that, just like,
we don't know.
Maybe
it could just be a breastplate.
Yeah,
it could just be the cat lady wearing an art mask.
Art to twink under there.
This movie better not awaken anything in me. Will, Mike's coworker, arrives just in time to be decapitated by Art. Dude literally has no other purpose than to provide another body, and it's pretty funny. So Art then chases Vicky, who stumbles upon the bodies of Dawn and Tara. He then starts beating her with a cat o' nine tails made out of his victim's hair and various cutting tools. I believe the first time I found out that it was his victim's hair was at Joe Bob.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
It's also in the trivia thing on IMDb. Because there's no other way you would know that. They don't specify it in any way.
It does look like hair, but it is sort of just braided into a rope. But yeah, no, I don't remember why Joe Bob was talking about that, but he did mention that it was the cat o' nine was made out of his previous victim's hair.
Yeah.
Which, since he hasn't shown Terrifier, I really don't remember why he was talking about that. He should show Terrifier. That'd be great. At this point, Mike, who was only knocked out, arrives and attacks Art the Clown from behind, knocking him out. Vicky and Mike escape and flee, and where do they go exactly? Was it a gas station or like another part of the building?
Yeah, it's just another part of the same building.
Okay.
They're just in this like warehousey area for a while.
Yeah, it's an apartment building, but like it's weird because the whole thing basically takes place in a few hallways in the basement of an apartment building. They never go into like any of the actual apartments or anything.
Yeah.
They find a phone and call 911, but Art arrives and stomps Mike's head into bloody chunks. As with most of the kills in this series, it's pretty great. Vicky tries to take shelter in a garage, but Art runs it through with Will's truck, knocking her unconscious. Police arrive to see Art eating her face. Instead of being taken in, Art shoots himself in the mouth, and the police then find that Vicky, despite having her face mostly eaten, is still alive. All of the corpses, including Art, are taken to a morgue. When the medical examiner unzips Art's body bag, the lights all start flickering, and his radio starts making weird noises, and the phone starts ringing.
He looks around like he doesn't even give a shit, too. It was so bizarre when I was watching this today, because he's just kind of like, that's a thing that's happening. He just looks around with, like, a blank look on his face.
Well, you know.
He's like, well, that's a thing.
Well, so what's interesting is, like, you bring that up, and I'm wondering, is that like a poor acting choice? Or is it just...
Well, there's a lot of not great acting at this.
That is true. But they did also, like, go through this whole thing where he was talking to the cops beforehand, and he was literally saying that, like, nothing phases him anymore. You know,
what he literally said is when you've seen a baby,
when you've seen a 3-month-old microwaved,
yeah,
everything else is old hat.
Yeah, but sure, but that's talking about like gore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's this really sort of silly trope and cliche of like the cops being horrified at the medical examiner eating and drinking while he's doing his work on corpses. And I don't know why this is such a common trope, but I feel like I've seen it in like a million movies.
Also, you wouldn't do that. It would contaminate the area.
Yeah, also, I've been in a few of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
They do not smell good.
No.
Like they smell really bad. And, you know, I've only been down there for like, you know, classes and things like that. Like I've seen, you know, a human body dissected and all that stuff. And maybe like everything else, the smell stops affecting you after a while. But I just can't imagine anything that smells that bad and that full of chemicals. Like I can't imagine becoming immune to it.
Yeah.
I feel like the last thing I would want to do is eat. Not even because it's gross to think about or because you're looking at a bunch of corpses, but just the smell would make it so unappetizing. I feel like food would be the worst thing you could like. Trying to put food in your mouth would be like the worst thing you could do. So the lights all start flickering and the phone starts ringing and the radio goes all wonky. And then Art wakes up and grabs the medical examiner's throat. And now we cut to 1 year later where Vicky is being released from the hospital after rehabilitation for her injuries, and it is revealed that she is the deformed woman from the first scene. And that's it. Cut to credits. I think the main theme of this movie is that Damien Leone really loves slashers and grindhouse, and that's basically it.
Well, he really just wanted to, he made it to one show off art because he wanted to make a new horror icon, but then also just to show off because he does all the special effects. He wanted to just show off his special effects.
Yeah,
Basically, that's all it's for.
Isn't that basically what, like, just how he writes all of these movies? Is he comes up with these gruesome set pieces and then makes a story to connect them together?
Yeah, well, story is loose definition.
I mean, there were things that happened. I find this movie to be entertaining for what it is. It's definitely not one that I would like. It's not one that you need to pay a lot of attention to.
I think it's ultimately boring.
It can be.
This is a little over. It's like an hour and 20 minutes.
It's not super long.
It seems long because it's boring. There's nothing happening. Like I said, and the kills, most of them are not interesting enough. Don't my attention.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely.
I just find it boring.
It's enjoyable enough, but it's not one that I'm going to watch like a bunch of times. Like now I've watched it, I think 3 times total. That's probably honestly enough.
Yeah.
I could potentially see myself getting high and putting it on again around Halloween. That's sort of the best way to appreciate this movie after the first run through, I think. It's just get high and fuck about, and you've got it providing some kind of, horror vibe in the background. But yeah, there's honestly not a lot. Art's very funny, but the characters are all paper thin. I mean, they matter so little that they switch final girls halfway in the movie.
Yeah.
There's no point. It's hard to even say that there's a protagonist. It's just about Art killing some folks randomly.
Yeah. And he's just following these girls to lead into other people. Like, this is what I'm saying. Nothing that happens matters. It's just all... There's no plot.
Yeah, I really... I really like... It's so funny because before I watched this movie, you and I were talking about it, and you were like... It's so stupid. He's literally just walking down the street and he finds some people to kill.
Yeah.
And that's... I'm like, is that really the setup? That's so dumb. Now I have to watch it.
Yeah.
No. And I mean, I do like it. I didn't want to like it, but I ended up liking it a lot more than I wanted to. And again, it probably won't be like a yearly watch or anything, just because everything is so shallow in it. But it's a fun movie. There's one thing that I do see a lot of discussion online about whether or not Art is supernatural in this movie, or at least supernatural through the whole thing, because he clearly is at the end.
Yeah, he obviously shoots himself in the head and then lives.
Well, so I do remember seeing Damien Leone say that Art probably is supernatural throughout the whole movie, but even he doesn't know it until he dies and is resurrected. And one thing that people point to is the tricycle. They're like, he just pulls a tricycle out of thin air and you see him riding it around. And I realized, I caught this on like my third or whatever watch of the movie while we were getting ready for this. He actually does not produce the tricycle. He kicks Will's head off screen, and then you can hear the head thump and hit, and you hear like the tricycle bell. And then Art gets this look of delight on his face. So he finds the little tricycle. It's already that bit of evidence that he's supernatural through the whole thing is not actually evidence of that. The impression I get is he probably actually isn't until he's resurrected. Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Jason thing. Jason wasn't a zombie in the first few movies. He was just a guy.
True.
And then they decided to make him a zombie because, well, how else are we going to get Jason back?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great.
They gotta electrocute him.
I do like that Damien Leone is cool with going with some of these ridiculous slasher things. So, who would we recommend this movie for?
Anyone just that likes gore.
Yeah.
For the sake of it.
If you like gore and you want a fairly funny killer, go for it. If you want plot and well-developed characters and overarching themes and all that, you can skip this one. It's a fun watch, but that's literally what it is. It's a fun watch.
I guess. Like I said, I find it kind of boring. I get bored every time I watched it.
Yeah, I don't, but I imagine if I watch it like...
It's like I'm not even offended. I'm just bored.
I imagine if I watch it more than once every few years, I will probably get pretty bored with it. But it's fun. It's good to just get high, pour yourself a drink, maybe goof off with some friends while it's on.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good time. Terrifier is available to stream with a subscription or for free at Peacock, Roku, Vudu, Tubi, and Plex. You can rent or buy it from Apple, Microsoft, Google, or YouTube.
Thank you for listening to Streaming Screams Podcast. You can follow us at our socials at Streaming Screams Pod for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and SoundCloud.
You can also follow us on TikTok or on the dreaded Twitter/X at ScreamsPod. Thank you again for listening. We hope you're enjoying yourselves. Jessica, are you enjoying yourself?
Absolutely.
All right then, on to the next part of the show. Now we are coming to Terrifier 2. And just real quick, before we get into Terrifier 2, I do think that it's interesting to note that All Hallows Eve, which is the first kind of anthology movie to feature Art the Clown, is not canon to the Terrifier series. Damien Leone just wanted to do something with this character, but it's all unrelated to All Hallows Eve. The shorts that made up that anthology were basically him figuring his stuff out. So that was just an interesting thing that I thought I would throw out there before we get into Terrifier 2. Oh boy, this is going to be a long one. Released in 2022, written and directed again by Damien Leone. This one features Lauren Levira as Sienna Shaw, the heroine and final girl of our story. She is trying to live a normal life despite having lost her dad tragically and kind of suddenly not too long ago. The return of David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown, the silent serial killer from the first movie, now resurrected supernaturally. We've got Elliot Fulham as Jonathan, Sienna's younger brother who is weirdly obsessed with Art the Clown. We've got Sarah Voigt as Barbara, the mother of Sienna and Jonathan. She is grieving her husband, dealing with Sienna being a teenager and Jonathan being a morbid weirdo, all while doing a stressful job and trying to make ends meet at home. She starts the movie completely overwhelmed, and by the end of it is just at her wit's end.
I don't know, she's kind of a jerk.
If those were my kids, and I was grieving my dead husband, I'd beat them. That Jonathan's a little shit, man. Let me tell you.
I don't know. I think she's unreasonable.
I agree. She is unreasonable, but like she's so overwhelmed with life. In real life, I think it would be unfair to expect anyone in her situation to be a reasonable person.
Sure.
She clearly needs help, and she is not getting it. So, but we'll get into all of that. But yeah, I honestly, I felt for the mom.
I don't know. We may get
she's
into it
a
later.
hard ass, but
no. Well, like I said, we can get into it later. It's just like the whole possum thing. I'm like, I wouldn't be angry. I'd be concerned.
Yes. We will get into that later because I do have a rebuttal for that, but we'll get there. Amelie McLean as the Little Pale Girl, a 10-year-old demonic clown dressed almost exactly as Art, often with glowing yellow eyes. She acts as Art's guide through the movie, showing him where to go and who to kill, and for unknown reasons is guiding him to kill Sienna and Jonathan in particular. Kaylee Hyman as Brooke.
Where? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, what an unfortunate last name. So, Kaylee Hyman as Brooke, Sienna's friend and kind of the bad girl of her friends group. We've got Casey Harlett as Allie, Sienna's more straight-laced friend. And we've got Charlie McElvin as Jeff, Brooke's boyfriend, and the returning Samantha Skiffity as Vicky Hayes, the horribly deformed sole survivor from the first movie. We also have Leah Voisey as the Clown Cafe TV host and a nurse. And then we've got Chris Jericho as... These are just cameos. We've got cameos from Chris Jericho as Burke, who is listed as a nurse, but I think he's more like an orderly because he's part security, part nurse. Like his shirt says security on it.
Oh, did it? I didn't notice.
Yeah. So, and I think that's isn't that like what an orderly does? Aren't they like kind of help nurses but also do security?
I don't know.
I don't know. If there's any orderlies in there, let us know in the comments of whatever you're listening to this on.
I thought that was like
what
when
do
you
you
were
do?
in training.
What?
An orderly is like you don't have your license yet.
I don't know, man. The medical system in America is complex enough just being somebody who like uses it. I have no idea how hospitals do their thing. So if somebody out there can explain to us what Chris Jericho's character actually is, please do so. We also have a cameo from Felissa Rose as Miss Principe, the principal of the high school. Who she was? She was the principal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And before we go on, Terrifier 2 is available with a subscription to Screambox. You can also rent or buy it from Prime, Microsoft, Apple, or YouTube. Part 2 picks up right where Part 1 left off. Art is resurrected in the morgue, missing an eye and the back of his head. He brutally kills the medical examiner while still engaging in a lot of his goofy hijinks. And I actually think he was very funny in the first movie. He's hilarious in this one.
Yeah, he's much funnier.
He's such a delight. Art then goes...
They give him more time to clown around.
They do. And he makes the most of it. You know, you can say whatever you want about these movies. They may be for you, they may not be. They've got their strengths and they've got their weaknesses. But one thing I will say is you cannot knock David Howard Thornton's performance as Art.
Yeah.
He fucking owns the shit out of this character. It's great. Art goes to a laundromat to clean the blood off of his clothing, and there he meets the little pale girl. He seems initially confused and unsure what to make of her, but she endears herself to him by blasting diarrhea all over the floor and then poking his eyeless socket. Truly, this is the classiest of horror series. There's a guy who is asleep in the laundromat in a chair off to the side who wakes up and sees Art butt naked playing patty cake with little pale girl, only she's invisible to him, so he just sees Art naked and being a weirdo.
Which is just weird because in the rest of the movie, people do see her.
Only Sienna and Jonathan. Yeah, she stalks Sienna at the party. Nobody else sees her.
Yeah, but nobody else sees Art until then either.
I mean, a lot of people see him. Like he's seen in the costume shop.
Sure.
Like, yes, people...
But she's not there, is my point. There's no point where they're together and nobody else is like, there's somebody seeing her and somebody not.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just basically Jonathan and Sienna see her. I'm sure that she can be seen by whoever she wants. She's clearly a demon or some other kind of entity, but, you know, I think it can just be summed up as a demon.
I guess.
So she can do what she wants. Anyway, after this guy sees Art being a weirdo, Art dons his now immaculate, clean costume with fresh, blood-free face paint and leaves the laundromat after killing the guy and for some reason mopping the floor. I'm not really sure why.
Well, you know, want to clean up a little bit.
I guess. You know? Art's an enigma. One moment he's smearing shit all over the walls with his hands. The next moment he's courteously mopping the laundromat floor. A year later, we see Sienna working on finishing up her Halloween costume, a winged warrior angel that is basically a character that her father had drawn for her throughout her life before he died. We also see Barbara, her mom, on the phone with an angry customer while she tries to cook dinner. At dinner, we find Jonathan has developed a weird fixation with Art and plans to dress up as him for Halloween. Sienna tries to get their mother to do something about this, but the mom is, again, beyond overwhelmed with life and just can't effectively be a parent to her kids. That night, Sienna has this fucking sequence, man. This whole sequence. That night, Sienna has a nightmare where she is stuck in the Clown Cafe, a children's show featuring a host singing the Clown Cafe theme song, which runs on way too long and has the chorus too many times. This seems to take place in like a little playground area outside of a food truck. Despite it being called the Clown Cafe, there's no cafe anywhere.
Sure.
It's a food truck and a little playground on a TV set.
Yeah.
I guess this works with dream logic, but it's ridiculous.
It's because was the commercial on TV and then she just dreams it to be more fucked up? Because they do show it on the TV.
Well, it's hard to tell because there are some implications throughout the movie that Sienna herself is going crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's just as she's drifting off, this is what she thinks she's seeing on TV, and then she finds herself there. It could also be that she's actually sort of being sucked into it.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, this is sort of Damien Leone's Dream Warriors deal, and we're really going to get to that in a second.
Well, what's funny about this scene, too? One, I thought it went on way longer the first time we saw it in the theater.
It's because of that song, man.
But the second time I was like, oh, it's actually not that long. But, so this movie cost $25,000 more than the other one.
Yeah.
And the main reason is because of this scene. They were going to have the exact same budget, but he was like, no, I was really set on doing the Clown Cafe, and I had to build a whole set for that.
What's really wild, too, is I was reading that it's like his favorite set and his favorite part of the movie.
Weird.
And I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's so weird.
And everything about this dream is so...
Like the nun and the homeless man and like...
Yeah, so we've got like the kids eating disgusting...
They're not even kids.
Right.
They're all adults
dressed as kids. And like, this isn't one of those movie things where they just hire somebody who's like older to play a high schooler. This is like, somebody is clearly supposed to be an 8-year-old, but he's got stubble.
Yeah.
Like visible stubble. And Sienna's got this whole, like, she's trapped on the playground, and she's got this whole like Pippi Longstocking hairdo. And it's just wild. And they're having this Clown Cafe song sung to them by this clown lady in a cowboy hat with a banjo. And there's a nun screaming at them to feed this homeless man.
Yeah, who was gonna feed this man?
He's so hungry.
It's like, what is happening?
And then for some reason, there's like airline pilots and a bunch of people with luggage just standing there. It's wild. It's a trip.
Important scene. For some reason.
It turns out that it is. After the song, the host introduces Art, who proceeds to kill the audience. There's a whole lot of other weird stuff going on in the dream. Art gets to a point where he's killing everybody with basically a giant like flame-throwing blowtorch thingy. Pretty sure it's a real tool that is used to like clear brush or something. Yeah, I don't know what do you know what they're called?
No.
Yeah, it's basically a handheld flamethrower. And Sienna has this weird instinct into the dream to like reach into this cereal box because for some reason there's a kid eating cereal full of roaches and razor blades, and he's all zombified and then dead. I don't know, something. The more I describe this sequence, the more I like it. Like, I felt it really dragged watching it.
Like I said, the second time watching it, I was like, oh, this actually isn't that long.
Yeah, and it's a really wild sequence. The first time I saw it, I did not remember just how much bonkers shit is going on in it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty wacky. So for some reason, Sienna is trying to reach into this cereal box instinctively, and Art, comes after her with the flamethrower thingy. And right at the very last second, she pulls out this sword and blocks the flames. The sword is part of the costume that she was working on before she went to bed. She uses the sword to block these flames. She wakes up to discover that her angel wings are on fire. Now, her mom blames this on her leaving candles out, but we actually do see her blowing all of her candles out, so we know that's not it.
Still reasonable to assume.
It's a reasonable assumption. I don't blame the mom for, again, I do think the mom is harsh.
Yeah, here I think she's fine.
I sympathize with her a lot because she is really just at her wits' end.
It's later where I'm like, okay. This is not how you react to it.
So I remember when you and I first saw this, and you were like, you actually said something to me about I just don't think it was that tragic when the mom dies, because I don't know, she's supposed to be like this perfect mom, and I don't see it, and I was just like, where are you getting that? She was a fucking psycho the whole thing. She was completely ineffective as a mom. Again, due a lot to circumstances, but I don't think that was what they were going for. So yeah, the wings all burn up.
Oh, well, no, her friends go on about how great her mom is.
Yeah, I think you know how this is, where you've got your parents' image as your friends have it.
Sure.
And then there's what you actually live with.
Sure.
And also the thing with her dad dying, it seems like it happened pretty recently. There's probably a fair difference in how her mom behaved and was as a parent before that happened and then after.
Maybe.
Okay, so she discovers that her angel wings are on fire and they are completely destroyed. The rest of her costume's salvageable. It doesn't look like most of it got burnt up, but she does notice that the sword she found in her dream is laying on her dresser unscathed. And it's explained that this sword was given to her by her father, who, again, created this character for her on which her costume is modeled. Of course, this whole fire thing results in a huge fight with her mom. At this point, we actually see the opening scene from the first movie again. Art is assembling his bag of weapons while Monica Brown is interviewing Vicky on the small TV screen, ending with Art kicking the screen in. The difference is that this time we can see that the little pale girl is with him, and she's the one who put the program on. So interestingly, we couldn't see her the first time around, but now we do.
Okay.
The pale girl has kind of an interesting origin. I know that he always intended for Art to kind of have a guide in this, but initially the guide was going to be a child, but it was going to be they were going to be more of an homage to like Italian giallo. It was just going to be a very different character. And then he was going through Instagram and seeing all these tags of people cosplaying as Art and was like, this is really cool. I think I'm going to do that. Instead. He's been pretty vocal about how basically the fan base gave him that idea, and he wanted to do it, one, because he thought it was really cool, but also as sort of like a nod to all these cosplayers who were doing Art the Clown.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, she is with him. She's actually the one that put the program on. Then we get to Halloween, and Jonathan is walking in the hall of his school alone, where he finds Art and the little pale girl playing with a dead possum. They throw the corpse of the possum at him and he kind of like starts to run away, just as the principal, who cannot see them, walks up and catches him doing what she thinks is, playing with it, vandalizing the school using the carcass of a dead possum. At the same time, Allie and Brooke are discussing the incident with Vicky mutilating Monica Brown after the interview, which is something we saw in the previous movie. This conversation triggers a panic attack in Sienna, who is dealing with some major anxiety issues. After this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sienna and Allie go to a Halloween store to buy a new pair of angel wings for Sienna's costume, where they run into Art the Clown. Art kind of torments Sienna by playing around with different novelty sunglasses and noisemakers before sinisterly honking a horn into her ear.
It's all pretty funny.
It's such a funny scene. If you haven't seen this movie, I kind of recommend it just for this scene.
Yeah, Craven was in the room when I was watching this, but he wasn't interested, and I even was like, "Oh, you got to watch this scene."
It's so good. After he really gets to her by honking the horn sinisterly in her ear, Sienna and Allie leave, and Art then kills the clerk. Later, Jonathan shows Sienna and their mother their father's sketchbook, which is full of sketches and newspaper clippings related to Art the Clown and his crimes. It's kind of worth noting here that they're pretty upset that Jonathan seems to have been hiding this sketchbook from them, and that they've been looking for it for a while. Of the stuff that we see in the sketchbook, we see newspaper clippings showing that the little pale girl looks exactly like a 10-year-old girl whose, quote, lifeless mangled body was discovered in a makeup trailer at a circus. According to the newspaper, this 10-year-old, Emily Crane, didn't she say the baby doll's name was Emily?
Yes.
In the last one?
Yep.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's deliberate. 10-year-old Emily Crane was, quote, the daughter of two prominent circus performers whose family included a long line of very popular, well-respected circus acts, mimes, and similar talents, end quote. That was why I asked you to look up the mime thing. Because this specifically calls out mimes and does not say clowns.
Yeah.
So that was what I was interested in there.
Yeah. Like I said, mimes are a type of clown.
Yeah. We also get a newspaper that we only see part of that just says something, quote, could be on the brink, and then a line that says, God doesn't live here anymore. kind of be interested in seeing what that newspaper clipping was supposed to be. But we don't. We see more newspaper clippings regarding the victims from the previous movie, including the pizza parlor workers, Tara and Dawn, and the Miles County medical examiner. We see a drawing of Art the Clown looking very angry. We see a drawing of one of the pizzeria workers with a terrified look on his face. We see a drawing of one of the exterminators, I believe it was Will, bloody on the floor right before Art crushed his head with his foot. We get a drawing of Dawn hanging naked upside down as Art comes towards her with the hacksaw. And what's interesting is that all of these drawings basically take place moments before each subject is killed, and they all are exact frames from the previous movie.
Yeah, so they're like kind of implying that the dad's Art.
Maybe. So this is an interesting point of discussion and kind of an interesting mystery, because it does kind of seem like it would imply that the dad is Art.
Yeah.
But the dad also kind of gave Sienna her magic sword, and like...
So maybe he can't help it and he needs to be stopped.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's like, you need to kill me when the time comes, but he can't like say that. Or, he could just be having...
He's a prophet of Art.
I mean, he could just be having visions, So the whole thing with Sienna's dad was that we find this out later in the movie. We get the details. Sienna and Jonathan's dad had a pretty significant brain tumor. He was always an artist, and we don't really know much about him beyond that, besides the fact that he was supposed to be a good dad. But he developed this brain tumor, and he started seeing things and behaving weirdly and doing, quote, fucked up shit. Near the end of his life, he got really abusive, really violent and abusive, in particular towards Sienna. The way he actually died was he drank a full bottle of Jack Daniels, got in the car, and drove directly into what they call a transformer thing. I mean, I think they mean a power substation or something. Yeah, probably. But basically, he drove into an electrical thing deliberately.
Which, if you're going to kill yourself, man, drink some better whiskey first.
I know.
I mean, I'm not promoting killing yourself, but I'm like, really? Jack Daniels, that was your choice?
This is how you're going to go out?
I mean, come on.
You couldn't find any blue label or anything?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the time to go to the locked case at the liquor store, if you know what I mean.
They have a decent-sized house. He could afford.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe their insurance doesn't pay out if there's suicide.
Usually not.
Yeah, so then there might be like... The family's probably pretty hard up. We do see the mom doing a real shit job from home, getting yelled at while she's trying to cook dinner and all that.
Yeah, and it looks like she's doing insurance.
Yeah.
Like insurance claims.
Yeah. Like she's either doing support or insurance claims or sales. And it's...
Well, because she talks about getting somebody an agent.
Oh, yeah. Whatever it is, it sounds miserable.
Yeah.
This poor lady. So there's definitely a connection between... the dad, somehow he's connected to Art the Clown. We don't know how. And he seems to have prepared Sienna for this in some regard, because the last sketch that we see in the sketchbook is her dressed as the Angel Warrior character in a triumphant pose with her sword in one hand and the severed head of a devil in the other. And I do want to note that I did go back and take a look at that first segment of All Hallows Eve, and it is not the same devil that we see in that movie.
Oh.
Which, I kind of figured, because I had already read that All Hallows Eve is not canon to any of this.
Yeah.
But I was just curious.
Yeah.
We then go to Allie's house, where Art is trying to trick or treat. She recognizes him and is refusing to give him candy, not because he was a weirdo at the store, but just because he's like full-grown ass man, and no candy for adults,
which I think is ridiculous. I mean, it is weird for an adult to go trick-or-treating, but who gives a shit? You're giving out free candy, just give it to people. Also, who do you think what adult is going trick-or-treating by themselves? Like, obviously they are probably not all there, so give them the goddamn candy so they don't get pissed off.
There could also be other things. There was a year I got really, really sick on Halloween. And it sucked because I put so much effort into my costume that year. I was my favorite comic book character, Ghost Rider. But it involved like getting a cool mask, putting like fake spikes that can be easily removed all over a leather jacket, dyeing my hair, spiking it up into like something that looks like flames. I was so excited, and then I just got really goddamn sick. So my dad ended up going out trick-or-treating for me, which was very nice of him.
Yeah.
But I was still just like, nope. So anyway, you never know. That weird clown who like refuses to speak to you for some reason, maybe he's just trick-or-treating for his kid.
Maybe.
You don't know.
I would think you would say that, but yeah.
I mean, honestly, if somebody comes to my house and they're an adult and they're trick-or-treating, fuck yeah, I'll give them some candy.
Sure.
Who
cares?
That's awesome. You and I have talked extensively about the idea that aging gracefully is for chumps. Have fun, man. Go have fun. Do what you like doing, If you want to trick-or-treat, go for it. If people look at you weird, fuck them.
You're not hurting anybody.
It's outside of the norm enough that maybe don't egg their house if they don't give you anything.
Sure.
But you're only guaranteed this one life, and you're not even guaranteed any more of that. Have fun with it. Anyway, Art tries to trick-or-treat at Allie's house. Allie recognizes him and refuses to give him candy. Initially, she's kind of playful with him, but after seeing the contents of his bag, she retreats into the house. We then see Sienna watching a news report about Vicky's attack on Monica Brown, again triggering another panic attack, and this time she imagines that the news anchor starts talking directly to her and implying that she is insane, both with the fact that the news anchor is talking to her, but also she, says something about Vicky being released from a mental hospital after a intense examination, just like you, Sienna. So there's hints that there's more going on with Sienna that we don't really get to see. We do see that she has a Xanax prescription, and we see her have multiple panic attacks throughout this whole thing. So.
Yeah, and her friends mentioned oh, did you change your meds?
Yeah. Sounds really snarky, but I don't think it was meant to be as snarky.
I don't know. That friend's a bitch in this.
Which one was it? Was it Brooke?
The one.
Sorry, not
she's
Brooke.
at the party with.
Yeah,
I'm not good at names.
It's not. I know, but I'm trying so hard to remember everybody's names in this movie. Brooke, that's Brooke. Sienna's bad girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that she's taking Xanax, and at this point we switch to the infamous bedroom scene. This is one of those scenes that you just kind of got to see for yourself. I think they were deliberately trying to one up the hacksaw scene from the first movie.
Absolutely.
and I think they did it.
Yeah, it's way better.
It's so gruesome. It's literally one of the most gruesome kills I've ever seen. It might be the most gruesome kill. So, props to you, Damien Leone, you sick fuck. So Art brutally flays and mutilates Allie. He scalps her, stabs her, slices her, rips one arm off I'll get to that. Rips one arm off and then splits the other one by pulling on her fingers and
down the middle.
Down the middle, like a wishbone. Yeah, and then he pours she's crawling across the floor, and you kind of think it's done. He pours a gallon of bleach on her and then starts pouring salt all over her body, rubbing it into the wounds.
Yeah.
This scene was just something else, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I kind of feel like in a way this scene really kind of holds up a mirror to the audience and is yeah, look how fucked up you are too. Because this scene starts off really rough to watch. And then it gets so ridiculous that it's almost funny.
Sure.
With the hand splitting thing. And then it gets really uncomfortable again.
I don't know. I find it all pretty entertaining.
And then I love this scene. I absolutely love this scene. But I'm just saying, it starts off really hard to watch. And then it gets kind of amusing. And then it gets hard to watch again. And then, when it's over and you have this moment of, relief where you're well, that's done. That's when Art comes in and then dumps bleach on her and then starts salting her. And at that point, it's really funny. It feels like something you shouldn't be laughing at. But it's hilarious. He's literally rubbing salt in the wounds.
Yeah.
What a jerk, Yeah. It's such a mean-spirited scene and so funny in that regard. And this is sort of what I was alluding to earlier. So this movie and the sadness really kind of made me reevaluate who I am as not as a person. Well, a little bit as a person,
sure.
But mostly as how desensitized am I? Uh-huh. I kind of avoided seeing the sadness for a little while because I had heard that it was just so mean-spirited. I've always kind of had a problem with just not like a problem with mean-spirited horror, but it's not like necessarily fun. Like, you know, The Hills Have Eyes remake, that first attack.
Love it.
I know you love it, but like that first attack is so mean. There's like the dad burning alive and either the wife or the daughter being raped while the baby's got a gun pointed on it. And I'm like, this is so mean. I fucking hate it. And then fast forward a couple of decades, and here I am watching The Sadness, which is, again, a very mean-spirited movie. And I find myself laughing so many times during that movie because it's so absurd.
Everything's over the top, so it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not realistic, but like, it's just, you know, once you see a special effect that you know is somebody off screen throwing a bucket of fake blood at a wall, like, you know, that's great. That's great. And then this rubbing salt in the wounds. It is the most horrifying fucking pun, you know? And it's so funny. I was sitting there kind of being like, man, how desensitized am I? How messed up has my sense of humor gotten that I am amused by it? I mean, I'm thoroughly uncomfortable as well. So I guess that's good. There's still some humanity sitting back in there. Great scene. If you like brutal kills in your horror, this is definitely the one for you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So we move on from that. After another argument with her mom, Sienna and Brooke go to a Halloween party where we meet Jeff, Brooke's boyfriend. The three of them drink and dance. At the same time, Allie's mother discovers Art further mutilating Allie's still living body. Which, come on. There's no way. She's got no meat on one leg at this point.
I don't know, man. People survive really crazy things all the time.
I mean, I guess. Did you read about the origin of this whole thing, that scene?
No.
Apparently it was inspired by fucking horror directors. So Damien Leone was was at the library looking basically for like inspiration for his kill. And he came across a picture of one of Jack the Ripper's victims. And he was like, this is bonkers. This doesn't even look like a human anymore. I'm going to do this. Sure. And that was the inspiration for this. Okay. So thanks, Jack the Ripper. Eventually you led to somebody laughing at something. It's horrifying. Anyway, we don't see Allie's mom getting killed. But a little bit later, we do see that Art has turned her head into a bowl and is using it to hand out candy to trick-or-treaters.
Which is also great.
I fucking love this movie so much. The first one, it's got its downsides, but this one might be a yearly watch for me.
Yeah.
It's a delight.
I think the third half of this movie drags a lot. Once they leave the party, it drags so bad. I mean, the pacing is so shitty.
I can see where you're coming from. I disagree. Like, for my personal taste, I'm not saying you're wrong. Just for my personal taste, it's fine.
I think it drags.
But, you know, I also have a lot of patience for slow movies and things not happening.
I like slow movies, but usually they build to something that matters. Like, this doesn't really. And I think a big problem with this movie is there's all the stuff going on with the little brother, half of that you don't need to show. They go in too far into characters that it's like they don't need to. And this movie does not need to be almost 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, so I do think that Damien Leone heard all of those complaints about there being no characters in the first one and really overcorrect.
Yeah,
and that's fine. I actually think that this movie probably could have been divided into two, and had like a little bit more flesh put on each half, because it is really long and there's a lot that happens.
Like I said, for me, it's once they leave the party, it just is like
drags. Yeah, they could have thrown a few more brutal kills in there, added another half an hour, chopped it off, made its own movie. You know. So Barbara sees Jonathan sitting in Sienna's room, holding her sword and looking at the sketchbook. They have a big fight. She rips up the sketchbook before slapping Jonathan for calling her a bitch. Jonathan runs out of the house. Barbara takes some pills and chases them with wine. She has gone from being at her wit's end to just really fucking being at her wit's end. And that is when she finds her car covered in toilet paper, a smashed pumpkin, and shaving cream with the word bitch written in it on the windshield.
Which, for Jonathan to have done this, he would have had to done it before the fight. Because he runs out of the house. I'm just saying.
Sure, but then when they cut, that is true. But they do like cut away, and when they cut to her again, She has a glass of wine and her pills ready. So there is a little bit of time. He could potentially have run back.
That would take so much time and it would make noise. There's a smashed pumpkin on it.
I agree.
I mean, she's upset, so there's no reason for her to think about this. But the whole time I was like, there's no way he could have done this unless he did it before they fought.
True. What's funny, and what the thing that I do think should have occurred to her, and I think this is deliberate, she did mention earlier in the movie that the neighbor's car had been vandalized in a similar fashion. So now that I'm thinking about it, one of the reasons she probably thought it was Jonathan was, one, because the word bitch was written on the windshield.
Yeah.
But also because she had told him earlier about this.
Sure.
And also she is just livid and, again, just overwhelmed. Completely overwhelmed. So I don't think honestly, I don't think she thinks clearly for a moment in this whole movie.
Yeah.
At the party, Sienna and Brooke are having a heart-to-heart when Brooke reveals she put Molly in Sienna's drink, which is really fucked up.
Yeah, don't drug people.
You know, even if it's a fun drug, don't do that without people's consent, man. That's like the quickest way to make sure somebody freaks out.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
you never know what reaction people are going to have. You can kill someone.
Yeah, what happens if you mix Molly and Xanax like that? Is there a reaction to that? I don't know.
I don't think there would be a big deal, but I don't know, man.
I mean, that's the thing.
Just
though.
don't do it.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So if I was on Xanax and you spiked my drink with Molly,
yeah,
would they interact? Probably certainly change how the high feel.
Yeah.
Don't drug people. It's not cool, even if it's a fun drug. So yeah, Brooke reveals that she put Molly in Sienna's drink, and then Sienna returns a bunch of missed calls from her mother.
Big mistake. Never talk to your parents on the phone when you're messed up on anything. I don't care how old you are.
You know, funny thing too, Brooke tells her this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't call your mom while you're on Molly.
Or if you're drunk. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, man. Just never a good time to have a heart-to-heart with somebody.
Yeah.
She calls her mom, who is yelling about Jonathan supposedly vandalizing her car. Sienna, being high as shit, finally actually starts to let go of some of the stress she's been carrying through the whole movie and says that she loves her mom, leading to the singular moment of tenderness that we get in this whole thing. The girls go back out on the dance floor, and that is when Sienna sees that she is being stalked by the little pale girl, who of course nobody else can see, so she freaks right the fuck out. We then go back to Barbara, who is cleaning her car and muttering about how she's gonna kill Jonathan when she finds Art inside. And Art shoots her in the face with a sawed-off shotgun, blowing a hole in her face and sending the back of her head flying.
It's like her entire head. No,
I paused it. It is just a scalp.
But you see your head like blow off.
No, you see it like go concave, and then you see the scalp. Like I watched it like 3 times because this isn't the first time we had this discussion about this. So I wanted to make sure that I saw what I saw before coming in here. No, it's just the back of her head gets blown out, and her face goes like concave. Great effect, though. So after his own encounter with the little pale girl, Jonathan runs home and finds his mother, Barbara, sitting at the dinner table with a giant cavity where her face used to be. Again, I laughed so hard at this in the theater.
Mm-hmm. This is another one where I make Craven watch this.
Art then proceeds to come into the room theatrically. So she's sitting at the table, and the table's all set up for dinner. There's some food sitting out and all that.
Yeah, she has a glass of wine.
She has a glass of wine and all that good stuff. And Art comes into the room with an apron on and a thing of mashed potatoes and theatrically behaves like he's hosting a dinner party before violently shoving a fistful of mashed potatoes into the hole that used to be Barbara's face.
Yep.
I fucking howled in the theater for this one.
It's very funny.
It was great. Art then drugs Jonathan, kidnaps him, and steals Sienna's sword. The little pale girl impersonates Jonathan while calling Sienna in order to lure her to the old carnival. Despite Brooke believing this whole thing to be a prank, Jeff agrees to drive Sienna to the old carnival so she can look for her brother. As she is out looking for her brother, Brooke tells Jeff the backstory of Sienna's dad. And this is where you find out about the brain tumor.
This whole scene's weird.
What?
Because in this scene, she's like, fuck Sienna. She can go deal with her own thing. And the boyfriend's like, I don't know, I think we should check on her. And then it flips really quickly. She tells the story, and then she's like, well, I think we should go check on her. And he's like, why? Who cares? And I'm like, what happened here?
I can tell you what happened. One, they're doing a bunch of coke, so
sure. Well, they didn't do a bunch, but they.
Well, I mean, they
do some coke.
They're doing coke. He's horny.
Sure.
Because at this point he's like, I want to get laid.
He's gonna have whiskey dick anyway.
Is it still whiskey dick if it's anyway?
Well, he was drinking earlier.
No.
Too.
Oh yeah.
They took shots of whiskey.
Yeah. This is gonna be great when my mom listens to this. They're doing coke. He's getting horned up, and she tells this whole story. And as she is doing so, I think she sort of like stops being mad at Sienna and like kind of reminds herself what her friend's going through.
Right.
And then she's like, she calms down, comes to her senses, and like, let's go. Let's go make sure my friend's okay.
Yeah.
But by this time,
again, it's a long drawn out scene that I'm like, you could shorten this up.
Yeah, you totally could. Now at the same time,
this is what I'm talking about, where it starts to drag.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I think besides him getting higher and getting horned up, and I think that he hears this and sort of hears this whole story and sort of has this inverse reaction, is like, she's your fucking friend. I don't want to deal with it.
I guess it doesn't come off that way.
I mean, it's important to remember these are shitty teenagers we're talking about. Anyway, she tells him about the dad's abusive behavior and hallucinations and driving into the transformer and burning to death, etc., etc. Brooke and Jeff decide to pass the time by doing some coke and banging, but first, Jeff has to leave to go take a leak while Brooke tries and fails to call Sienna. And this is the closest thing we get to a really brutal kill for a dude, but it's also a really funny moment. Art shows up and stabs the shit out of Jeff before ripping his dick off and using it to tease Brooke. At this point, I am going to point out, I really do appreciate that horror movies and movies in general are showing so many more penises.
Yeah.
And I do find it really funny that this is like the second movie I've seen in the last couple of years where somebody gets their wang ripped off and then the killer uses it to sort of tease their girlfriend.
What's the first one?
That one, the Australian one, the Wolf Creek.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a part where he rips off a dude's dong and teases his girl with it. Apparently, I wish they had done this. David Howard Thornton apparently had the idea that they should do more with the severed penis. And he wanted to blow it up like a balloon animal, which I think would have been very funny. It wouldn't have been very realistic.
Sure, because we got to be grounded in reality here.
Yeah. But could you imagine just like making a little dog out of a severed dong?
Sure.
That'd be a good time. After teasing Brooke with the severed member of her now deceased boyfriend, he chases her into the same haunted house attraction where Sienna is currently searching for Jonathan. He corners her in the bathroom and brutally kills the shit out of her. Sienna finds Brooke's corpse before Art beats her unconscious and chases Jonathan through more of the haunted house. Sienna comes to and attacks Art, saving Jonathan. They run away, and Jonathan speculates that their dad may have known all of this was going to happen somehow, and Sienna's the only one that can stop Art the Clown. And we do know that Sienna is supposed to be the protagonist of the series from here out, and is supposed to be Art's nemesis.
Yeah.
Art suddenly reappears, and we get the big end of the slasher battle, including the fake-out where the villain supposedly dies multiple times. At this point, the little pale girl disguises herself as Sienna and Jonathan's mom before psychically showing Sienna how Art killed Barbara.
Yeah, this begs a lot of questions.
There's just no fucking rules.
Yeah.
Like in one sense, I do feel like there's...
Because she's not just seeing this, because her brother reacts to it.
Well, her brother sees the pale girl disguised as...
Yeah.
I don't think that he sees the visions, because he...
No, but he sees that there's someone pretending to be his mom there.
Yeah.
And he keeps referring to her as, that's not mommy, and I'm like... You're too old to be saying that.
Yeah, this is something that kind of irritated me throughout the whole movie. He always calls her mommy, and he always calls dad daddy.
Yeah.
And this kid is supposed to be like, what?
They said 12.
12?
He's in middle school.
Come on. Come on. We get that he's supposed to be a weirdo.
Yeah, but no, it's weird.
Yeah. I was also a weirdo and did not call my mom mommy when I was 12.
Yeah.
Grow up, kid. Get it together. Art then stabs Sienna with her own sword and throws her into a pit that has mysteriously appeared in the ground. The pit has like a real circus look to it. It's like lined with lights.
Well, it's got lights and then it glows red and there's like clown laughing noises coming from it.
Yeah, and you hear the host from the clown cafe and all that.
None of this sequence makes any sense.
It is bonkers. I know that Damien Leone has said that the whole thing about the clown cafe is that it is Sienna's personal hell.
Okay, sure.
So, which, sure, makes sense. It's awful. It would be my personal hell, too.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to listen to that clown cafe chorus one more time, I was going to strangle somebody right in the theater.
Okay.
So she awakes in like a water tank, like the kinds that escape artists escape from, in the clown cafe. Did Art throw the sword in after her? Do you remember?
Yes.
And now that she has possession of her sword, and while in this water tank, she supposedly dies. But now her sword starts to do some magical shit.
It just lights up.
And heals like her wounds.
Cue the synth wave.
Yeah.
It's a wound on her stomach starts glowing, which is also weird. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
There's other wounds, but just that one starts glowing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the one that killed her.
I guess.
Well, although I think it was the drowning that killed her.
Yeah, she drowned.
So, I don't know, man. Anyway, so the sword starts doing some magical shit and resurrects her. I think it's supposed to be like mirroring Art waking up or like being resurrected.
I guess,
and I think this is how they're supposed to become like mortal enemies now.
Okay.
It's like they don't show anything about her being supernatural after this, but I'm guessing that's sort of what they're supposed to be going for.
Okay.
Is now they've both been resurrected, one by demons and one by like
the power of Grayskull.
I mean, that would be great. That would be great. There's a new He-Man coming. But yeah, I guess she's an angel. She's being resurrected by the forces of good. So I guess it's supposed to be like God. I don't know. They don't really go into it. And again, I'm just theorizing. We don't see her do anything supernatural besides like survive. She wakes up and escapes the clown cafe. Finally, in possession of her sword and, alive, she stabs Art, then slits his throat. He kind of gives her like a knowing nod, which I think is interesting, and then presents his neck, and she just decapitates the shit out of him. At this point, the little pale girl shows up, cradles his head like a baby, and takes it away. And then, roll credits. Just kidding, there's somehow more.
Yeah.
In a mid-credit sequence, we see a nurse and an orderly at the Miles County Psychiatric Institute discussing Vicky. The nurse goes to check in on Vicky and finds that somehow she has given birth to Art the Clown's severed head, and her remaining eye is now glowing yellow the same way the little pale girl's eyes do. I think the implication here is that the little pale girl has now possessed Vicky.
That makes sense.
Vicky and Vicky is doing the same art type of shit, writing Art plus Vicky on the walls in what I think is her own menstrual blood and probably poop.
No, it's from her giving birth. Blood from giving birth.
the birth blood.
Yeah. So originally this scene was supposed to be Art growing out the back of her head, and they filmed it that way, but the Malignant came out and they didn't want it to be compared to that, so they changed it.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
It's probably smart, and honestly, I think this works better.
Yeah.
There is something funny about the idea of her giving birth to a living severed head.
Sure.
Because the head does smile at the nurse.
Yeah.
And that is it for Terrifier 2. It is long.
It is very long, and it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't.
There's lots that can be cut down.
I love this movie. I absolutely adore this movie, but I'm not gonna like try to pretend it doesn't have its flaws. It could probably lose about half an hour and maybe more. I think they could have split this movie into two, just added a few more gruesome kills and given us 2 1.5-hour movies. Which, funny enough, is what I hear he's basically doing with Terrifier 3. Oh. Because he did say he's heard everybody's criticisms about this one being too long.
Yeah.
And didn't want to do another 2.5-hour slasher movie.
Well, he said the third one's going to be more like the first one. But that Sienna, you are supposed to get answers about Sienna's dead.
Yeah. I hope they don't give too many answers. I've heard him agree with this in interviews, so I'm expecting that he won't overdo it. But I will say that if there's one thing that I think you don't ever need in a horror movie, it's more answers.
Sure.
Nothing, and I mean nothing, makes a killer or a monster less scary than finding out more about them.
But you like the remake of Halloween, which that's the whole thing in that.
So again, I'm going to reiterate this.
And that ruins Michael.
So again, I do like Rob Zombie's Halloween. However, I don't think it should have been a Halloween movie. I think they should have done away with all of the adult Michael stuff. I don't think the kid should have been named Michael Myers. I love that 45 minutes or whatever it is, based purely on its own merit. I think that kid was terrifying.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't think it needed to be Halloween. And after that moment where we transfer from child Michael to adult Michael, the movie has a serious drop for me.
Yeah.
Because from there, it's just a remake of Halloween. We all know what's going to happen. And sure, Rob Zombie takes a few liberties here, but really the big difference that he made was having, this kid, and it's terrifying. So I do hear why you're saying that, but I will counter by saying I don't like it as an origin story for Michael Myers. I just think that kid was scary as shit and would have loved the whole movie of that kid terrorizing everybody who's hurt him.
Sure.
That would have been a great time. So now we don't need to ever review Rob Zombie's Halloween for this. Just kidding. We totally should. So yeah, I hope that they don't reveal too much about Art's backstory. It would be nice to know what the connection is between Sienna's family and him, but I don't think we need to get too deep into it. I don't want to know. As far as I understand it, his motivation in the first movie and up to this point is basically just he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't need to know why he thinks it's funny.
It's just sadistic.
Yeah, just a sadistic clown. We can leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah.
I would recommend this movie for people who have patience. It's great. It has great kills. The characterization is a lot better than the first movie.
Yeah.
There is actual characterization.
I think it's just the third act that really drags. They could shorten it up in a lot of other places, but it's particularly in the third act where it's all right.
Yeah, I think this is one of those movies where they could have just taken 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there.
Yeah.
Over the span of 50 cuts, and it would have just been shorter.
Yeah.
Or again, I mean, I wouldn't mind more Terrifier, so if they want to just lengthen it out and split it, that would have been fine too, but too late for that. Have you seen the teaser for the third one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks so good.
It's just funny it's going to be a Christmas movie, but they're still releasing it in October.
I find that funny too. So I know that Damien Leone has said that the first 5 minutes of that movie are going to be really controversial. I think we're going to get a slow kill of a child.
Oh.
I think that kid in the teaser is going to get it, and it's not going to be off screen.
Maybe. We'll see.
Because that's something that you never get.
Well, so for these kind of movies, you got to keep upping your game, else people aren't interested.
Yeah.
You're just coming here to see how he kills people, basically.
Yeah, I know I mentioned earlier that All Hallows Eve isn't canon to this, but it does have a lot of the same characterization, and he does actually kill a few children in that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I want to see him kill some children. I'm just saying
you just love child murder.
Just yeet them kids.
Yeah.
No, but I do really Katie and I were having a discussion about this at some point, when we were back at the hotel, which is a long story. I'm not going to tell these people. By these people, I mean our listeners. One of the things that we realized is I really like bold choices in movies, whether those choices are ridiculous or not. I loved Skinamarink.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I probably won't ever watch it again. It will never be the same sitting in my living room playing with my cat and stopping to go to the bathroom as it was sitting in a silent theater full of people who were just terrified out of their pants. Mm-hmm. Like I was telling you, the dude next to me was literally biting on his knuckle, and I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that was a thing people really did, and the only sound I ever heard in the theater coming from the audience was a girl whimpering. So that was good. But so I really love that stuff. I love the really brutal kills in this movie. I don't know. I just I really like when a movie is willing to go someplace that other films really aren't. So no, I don't necessarily want to see a kid die, but I'm going to respect the shit out of it if they actually do it.
Sure.
Because it is a bold choice. Even in other slasher movies, killing children, even in horror, is generally pretty verboten. I'm not saying it never happens.
Sure.
But you certainly never get it on screen.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
No. If you like gory stuff, go see it, I guess.
Yeah.
It is long, though.
It is long. Be prepared. You know, go with an empty bladder. It may not be one to drink through.
Yeah.
You know.
It's more entertaining than the first one.
It's a lot more entertaining than the first one. I enjoyed the first one, even though I didn't think I was going to. This one I was really excited about.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, as you know, when I found out it was going to be in the theater, I was stoked. And I think the minute I found that out was when I messaged you and was like, hey, do you want to come see this in the theater with me?
Yeah. And we had to sit in like the front row.
Oh, yeah, it was packed. And I was not the only one howling with laughter at the mashed potatoes.
No, because it's just so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Who thinks of that? You know? Damien Leone is one sick bastard. But I kind of love him.
Yeah.
You know? He's making these bold choices and pushing things that other people won't do. And I never thought I would see anything that violent in a real theater, like, ever.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know? That is usually reserved for, like, direct-to-video.
Yeah.
You know, not that video is a thing anymore, but
well, streaming,
I mean,
whatever.
Like, you know, you guys know what I mean.
Yeah,
that's reserved for direct to Netflix now.
Yeah.
So you know, props to him. He's created a thing that is taking horror to a new level in a way.
We'll see where Terrifier 3 goes.
I can tell you where it's gonna go. It's gonna fucking kill a child.
Okay, we'll see.
It's gonna go to the North Pole. Yeah. Oh god, I was so even that trailer was so simple, and you don't see anything horrible in it.
Yeah.
But it just set this perfect mood. The way that kid yells Santa is so cute.
Yeah.
That kid is so adorable. And then you see Art in the Santa suit, and you're just like, this adorable, sweet little child is just gonna fucking get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. All right. Well, that's it for the Terrifier movies. Thank you for joining us, Streaming Screams. You could actually say goodbye to the audience instead of just cutting it off for one.